continues to fight against the butchery of Hamas. Israeli military has said that it has struck a terrorist cell and it is planning to launch anti-tank missiles at the rural communities along the border with Lebanon. Israel has also traded fire along its northern border with Lebanon's Hezbollah terrorists and raising concerns about a second front opening up. Those are the details that are now coming in since the Israel-Hamas war erupted around 2 weeks ago. The borderlands between south of Lebanon and north of Israel have seen constant but so far limited clashes between the Israeli military and the fighters, also from the Lebanese terror group Hezbollah, as this may be a second war front as Israeli defense forces are now planning to strike back. Let me go across to Pradeep Dutta, who's joining us live from Israel. Pradeep, as far as the two fronts that Israeli defense forces have been fighting, once again Hamas and the other against Hezbollah, tell us about the details as it continues with its counter-offensive against Hezbollah.
Yes, there seems to be no sign of de-escalation so far as Hamas and Israel conflict is concerned. You rightly said that right now Israel forces are confronting on two fronts. With on one front we have got Hezbollah, on the other front it's Hamas. On the northern side we have seen that how from Lebanon the Hezbollah is playing a very dangerous game. So earlier there used to be a very tactical and the major response from the Israeli troops that was only confined to the border belt. But now it has been made clear that any time they will go inside the Gaza and they will try to ensure that these terror organizations are not able to raise their heads, because if they stay alive for long, they will be a threat to the stability of the region, or also threat to the stability of, and also threat to the peace in this region and for the people too. So that's one of the reasons that they are trying to now enter inside the Gaza. They are preparing for that. Already we have seen that the battery of armored vehicle, that's also called the chariot of armored vehicles, they are surrounding and growing most of the areas close to the border in Gaza, and they are looking for the areas where from they can just penetrate inside, because they know urban warfare is not going to be very easy. There are so many challenges also, but with the help of the armored vehicle they will try to just move inside Gaza anytime. But yes, right now see what's happening is that that Hamas is trying to fire from areas which is basically civilian inhabited. That's one of the reasons that Israel was taking some time. Israel did not want any kind of a collateral damage. They wanted the civilian to move out of this place. The second thing that's worrying for Israel right now is that they want the safety of all other 200 people who have been held hostage by the Hamas for the last several days. Though two of the Americans have been released, the mother and daughter, they have reunited with their families in Israel. But what is more important is that safety and security of 200 people. So once the 200 people are released, there is every possibility that any time they will be moving inside and penetrating deep inside the Hamas territory, and they will try to cull their heads. That's what actually the IDF is right now planning to do. But you rightly said, we have seen that how the Hezbollah is playing a dangerous game. That's one of the reasons that even IDF has warned Lebanon that if you will just be a part of the game plan of Hezbollah, that way you will only be losing your sovereignty and prosperity too, because Israel will be left with no other option but to bomb that area too. Already we have seen that area is being conducted. More than 14 villages have been evacuated. They've been asked to move towards safer places, especially in the northern Israel, to areas which are closer to Lebanon, because we have seen that Hezbollah keeps on pounding shells, rockets. They had been even using this anti-tank missile also to target Israeli Markova tank that is considered to be one of the best in the world and one of the best so far as urban warfare is concerned. So they are trying to target those tanks also. It's not that easy situation here. But all I can say, the situation seems to be escalating on both the sides. It's the common man who continues to suffer, though. But the only good news that we are getting on the border front is that about 20 trucks with the humanitarian aids have rolled from the Rafah crossing, entered inside Gaza, but it is seen as a tip of an iceberg because a lot more is required, though India has also sent the Indian Air Force plane with the humanitarian aid, including medicine, tarpaulin tents and other things with the
well, that's the humanitarian aid that has also been given from India's side. That please to stay on with us, Pradeep, because as we talk about Hezbollah's action, that has also been limited to mainly cross-border strikes. We also talk about how Israeli defense forces are now picking up their fight against Hamas. And this is said to be the next phase of war against the terror group, as troops have been building up during and they continue at the Gaza border for Israel's ground invasion, as IDF commander has said that the troops have been ready, that Israel one day at a time and at any given point is ready to invade Gaza.
ניכנס לרצועת עזה, אנחנו ניכנס למשימה מבצעית מקצועית להשמיד את הפעילים של חמאס, את התשתיות של חמאס, ואנחנו גם נזכור בראש שלנו את התמונות והמראות והנופלים משבת לפני שבועיים. עזה היא מורכבת, עזה היא צפופה, האויב מכין בה הרבה מאוד דברים, אבל אנחנו מכינים לו גם.
Well, the IDF and the ISA have been also conducting aerial strikes on Hamas and the Islamic Jihad terror compound in the Al-Ansar mosque area in Jenin. As far as the recent IDF intel has revealed that the mosque was being used as a command center to plan and execute terror strikes and against the civilians, where hundreds of them already have been killed. Pradeep, coming back to you on that, this is the latest escalation because there are many of those areas, especially when it comes to densely populated areas that are actually being used as a place to store arms and ammunition and also being used as command centers. One may not think of them, but there are being places like mosques that are now being identified and revealed.
That's really a very unfortunate thing because they are flouting all norms of war. They are using civilian areas, they are using civilian infrastructure. The mosque is a place basically to pray, but not to carry out attack. But what actually Hamas people are doing, they are running their command and control center from their mosque. That's one of the reasons that Israel was left with no other option but to target this mosque in Jenin area, which was having an underground control and command center from where they were planning attack, from where they were orchestrating attack to target many of the civilian installation on the Israeli side. Not only that, we have been talking to many of those IDF officials and we have seen the visual of some of those schools also being used. Even the civilian inhabited areas are also being used as command and control center because there should be casualty of the civilian one, because those visuals they can show to the international community and then they'll start beating their chest trying to tell the world, so see how Israel is targeting civilians and flouting all humanitarian norms. But the reality is that Hamas is using people as human shield and using the civilian infrastructure to carry out attack because they want to portray one, Israel in bad light. Second, they want to vitiate atmosphere. Third, they want the vicious cycle of violence to continue. And fourth, they want to use those youngsters putting up in Gaza as cannon fodder so that they can use them for their vested interest, convert them into killer machine, indoctrinate and brainwash a young mind. So this is the game plan and this is the terror template that Hamas is following. And you must have seen that almost a similar kind of a terror template is being followed by all other terror organizations, jihadi Islamist organizations in different parts of the world where they are using these images. So that's one of the reasons that it's a little bit difficult for the Israel. But we saw that just a few days back when one of the hospital was hit by the rocket. That time also they tried to put blame on Israel, saying that it was an aerial raid. Though Israel was able to produce a documentary evidence that even made President of United States of America, Joe Biden, to give a clean chit to Israel, saying it was the other side. Basically, it was an errant rocket fired by the Islamic Jihadi group that of Palestine that hit the building, because of which there was a casualty of children and women. But after that, but you see, there's always a war of narrative that is going on. It's not only the war being fought on ground or with the help of the aerial strike.
Of course, the propaganda that is also being spread through the use of social media platforms there. Pradeep, we also talk about what the IDF have been saying, because it stated that its soldiers have also hit terror cells trying to launch anti-tank missiles towards northern Israel. And IDF says that Hamas wants the world to believe that they are a humanitarian organization. Don't fall for that trap. Meanwhile, IDF has been saying that it detected more than 500 failed rocket launches and misfires since the beginning of Gaza war, as the military announced that the terror organization Hamas uses the residents of Gaza Strip as human shields and fires from civilian infrastructure. Well, Pradeep, that's the point that you were raising right since the beginning. Even the IDF that has detected over 500 failed rocket that has been fired from the Gaza Strip, and this also came in recently when the hospital there was attacked. IDF has been maintaining all along that it was a misfire, a rocket misfire from Gaza, from Hamas terror side.
See, what Hamas is trying to do, they are trying to project themselves as a messiah of peace, as if they are the one who are really concerned about the human rights, they are really concerned about the civilians. But one should not forget what they did on October 7. That will be always remembered as darkest Saturday, not only in the history of Israel, but also in the modern world history and the mystery of the free world, where when they entered into this side, they did not spare women, children, toddlers were beheaded, torched, houses were torched, they were burnt alive. And after that, they took about 200 people hostage, more than 200 people hostage. We saw that when two of those people from United States of America, mother and daughter, they were released by Hamas terrorists. See, the kind of a statement that came from their side, they were trying to prove to the world, and also justifying the act of tyranny that they had unleashed on October 7. They were trying to show that on humanitarian grounds they have released, not telling the world that it was basically the pressure that was built by the Arab world countries, especially Qatar. They played the role of an interlocutor, asking them to release some of the hostages. Because if they are really concerned about the human right, by now they should have release all those hostages. The question everybody here is asking, there is one 9-month-old baby, a toddler, who has also been held hostage. The 9-month-old baby has not even uttered a word, Mama and Papa, not to talk of understanding the politics between Israel and Palestine. So why you have held that baby hostage? You should have released that baby very first moment. So Hamas face that mask has been lifted already. Right. Now world has realized that Hamas is no less than ISIS. It's an equally an evil organization, a monster organization.
And to respond to that, the Israeli military, which is already preparing to immediately step up its strikes in the Gaza Strip to increase pressure on the Hamas terror group after its brutal attack happened on the 7th of October. Pradeep, thank you very much for joining in. We'll come back to you with further ground updates, because as Israel